and they have captured this Japanese. They have occupied Andaman Nicobar Islands also. They ruled for 2 years, 1942 to 1944. They have ruled during the Second World War period. Japanese and the Britain, what they have done. Britain need their army because India has the largest army contingent under their rule, imperial rule. They needed Indians help, and USA also, they were supposed, USA, Russia was, they were together at that time during Second World War time against this fascist and Nazist forces. They were fighting, and Britain asked for help from uh, USA. USA supported and them, and Russia was also with this alien forces. China was also with alien forces, but China, USA, Russia, they were pressurizing Britain to give independence after Second World War. For that reason only that and the alien forces were led by the Franklin Roosevelt. He was the president of USA during Second World War time, and Winston Churchill was the prime minister of Britain, and they were mainly leading, and Stalin was the prime minister of Russia. They were leading alien forces, and with that intention only, Winston Churchill sent one Stafford Cripps, one ambassador to India, to pursue where Indian leaders to join the Second World War, to support them in Second World War, and so that they can win. After winning and after the uh, World War, they will give some independence. But Indian Congress leaders were demanding full independence, Purna Swaraj. They were demanding, but Stafford Cripps, he has promised to give dominion status on. Dominion status means still like now Australia is a dominion of Britain. Only they are under the Queen's rule. That practically they are independent, but they, like that dominion status they wanted to give after Second World War. But Indian Congress leaders, they have not agreed for this dominion status. They want Purna Swaraj, total independence. And with that reason, and Gandhiji gave a good slogan at that time during Quit India movement period. Do or die slogan he has given. करो या मरो स्लोगन दिया था वो क्विट इंडिया मूवमेंट का टाइम में, and that has attracted masses, many people. By that time the people were educated people, most of the people, they were attracted with this slogan karo or maro. Telugulo ఏమంటారు, విజయమో వీర స్వర్గమో అంటారు. Like do or die slogan, karo ya maro slogan he gave Gandhiji in his 8th August 1942, because this is because mainly failure of this Cripps mission, Stafford Cripps mission. Winston Churchill sent to him for negotiations, but Congress leaders not agreed for dominion status. They wanted full independence, but they have agreed. He promised for only dominion status. And USA was also pressurizing. USA at that time economically becoming strong at that time, but most of the areas were under Britain only. USA, even though it was a bigger state, but industrialized. But Britain was almost one third or two half of the earth was under Britain only by that time also. Very all the countries, many countries, whole Africa, and ASEAN countries, some of the Latin America countries, maybe all under ruled by Britishers only. But Germans, they were defeated. Even they may they could have occupied London, England also, but uh, with that intention only they have needed Indians help, because Indians also during First World War also Indians helped, but they have not given at the time also independence. They have not given, but they have given some passed 1919 India Independence Act, and some local legislatures were formed by 1919 itself. But by 1919, by the time Mahatma Gandhi also joined. Before that also Indians in the freedom struggle witnessed many. Ours is a long 100-year period of the freedom struggle, 1857 to 1947. And before that also some tribal movements were there. And 1857 is the first first revolution of India's independence struggle. 1857, I think the major one of the soldier Mangal Pandey, he led the he first fired on British yeah, Sipai Mutini at Meerut, and the Mangal Pandey fired on British uh, officers, and that led to and but it was suppressed subsequently with our own forces only. Our forces only they have suppressed our army. They, that was the tragedy, because they were by that time they were engaging recruiting our mahars in Maharashtra. Many people, because our society was also divided. No? They in Madras region and other regions, they were recruiting our soldiers, and uh, they were their army. They have built a strong army with our people, and before that, the Mahatma Gandhi also joined only in 1917 only. Before that, 1857 revolt take. 1857 revolt. After that, many movements have come. Swadeshi movement, Bala Gangadhara Tilak and Lala Lajapati Rai and Bipin Chandrapal, they have led Swadeshi movement also before that. They have boycotted foreign goods. Some and Home Rule movement was started by one Irish lady, I think that Annie Besant. Yeah, Annie Besant, Home Rule movement. Before Gandhi was also they were fighting. They were getting some concessions from Britishers, and before that, and Motilal Nehru and they were others leaders were active, and they have joined in provincial local legislatures. Governments were formed, and with request of Gopala Krishna Gokhale, he is considered to be the guru of Mahatma Gandhi. With his request, Mahatma Gandhi came to India in 1915 only. 1915 only he came. Before that, and after coming in 1917, he joined. Mahatma Gandhi first he joined in his Satyagraha. His main basic principle is non-violence and Satyagraha. Satyagraha means fasting, doing fasting, and he did his first Champaran. He has done his first Satyagraha for indigo farmers. They were taxed. They were the farmers. Their lands were taken, and they were forced to cultivate this indigo. And for their cause, he first led his revolt. And because in 1919 also uh, they have passed one Rowlatt Act also in 1919. Rowlatt Act means this militant nationalism was also growing. Some of the militant this Subhash Chandra Bose and this some of the Chandrasekhar Azad, some other militant nationalists they were growing, and Rowlatt Act they were passed. Rowlatt Act they suppressed the militant nationalists, and and this Rowlatt Act, that is a very dangerous act, and they can arrest anybody on suspicion without any proceedings. That was the Rowlatt Act 1919 they were passed. And to oppose this Rowlatt Act, there was a in Punjab area, now Jallianwala Bagh, one place called. They have assembled the Jallianwala Bagh. They have assembled to some to come this celebrate their April the Baisakhi festival. They have assembled there in Jallianwala Bagh garden, and the one at that by that time only the agitations were strong. The charge was given to this army. General Dyer was the army chief, and he entered into Jallianwala Bagh and indiscriminately started firing. Ordered his soldiers to fire.
Indian soldiers.
Yeah, Indian soldiers only. They fired on our Indians. Around 400 people were killed and around 1200 people were injured. Our people only fired on our yeah, in and this Rowlatt Act, and with this only this Rowlatt Act, and they have agreed by this Rowlatt Act. This Mahatma Gandhi started this non-cooperation movement in 1920. Non-cooperation. Non-cooperation meant they have surrendered all their titles and other things, and he has given a slogan to if students can leave government colleges and join Swadeshi schools and boycott foreign goods. Like that, non-cooperation movement was run for 2 years. Mahatma Gandhi led by non-cooperation 1922 1922 non-cooperation movement. In 1922, there was a violent, but he gave this movement to stating that only non-violent method they have to follow. But in Chauri Chaura, one place, and in Bihar, I think they have burnt one police station along with police officers. 22 police officers were burnt, and Mahatma Gandhi immediately this winded up this non-cooperation movement 1922, and afterwards this coming to this quit India movement in to 1939 the Second World War started, and they needed their forces. That's why they have sent Crips mission. Crips mission was also a failure, and with that reason, the Mahatma Gandhi and Congress leaders they have called for Quit India movement. Quit India movement for complete independence. But the global scenario is also moving in the going in this direction only. USA also pressurizing Britain because they want market. No, they are industrially growing. If Britain is occupying the entire globe, then where they will sell their products? The USA wanted market for their goods. That's why they uh, and that Franklin Roosevelt asked Winston Churchill to give independence to consider the demands of Indian people. And but they have the Crips mission failed and Quit India movement started, but they have oppressed. Quit India movement was oppressed, and many all important leaders were arrested. Gandhi, Patel, Nehru, and this Rajagopalachari and others were arrested. And Abul Kalam Azad, that's frontier Gandhian from now in Pakistan, Beluchistan, Sindh area. And but Muhammad Ali Jinnah at that time he was supported. He asked Britishers to take more Muslim officers into their army and fight against Axis forces. He leaded Britishers, and but the Quit India movement was suppressed badly because during that period to 1942 to 1944, Mahatma Gandhi was and other leaders were in jail only for 2 years, and this Second World War lasted for up to 1939 to 1945. Yeah, yeah. And they were advancing. Japanese were advancing up to India, and they have occupied in the Myanmar, Thailand, other Southeast Asian countries, Malaysia, Indonesia, and they have occupied Andaman Nicobar Islands also. They have occupied for 2 years, 1942 to 1944. Japanese occupied Andamans, and the, and there was no other option. And but still, the British Prime Minister himself declared that India will join the movement. They have decided themselves, even though the Crips mission failed. They have directly decided without considering the local governments or Congress Party of India. At the time, local governments were still existing, but they have not considered. Without our consent, they have taken our armies. And after Second World War, it was a up, but even though the leaders were arrested, people were participating all over the country. 1942 to up to 1944, 45, the Quit India movement continued, and the people were masses, teachers, educated people, students, all other sections, even peasants also participated, and some of the employees they were even though they have not resigned, but they were not cooperating with British government and army, and it was given a call to Indian armed forces that they should not fire on Indians, even though they can work in with British army, but they should not fire when it comes to Indians. They should not fire on Indians. That was the appeal made by the Congress leaders. And during Quit India movement period, and this socialist, this Ram Manohar Lohia, wrote one article letter to British Prime Minister stating that 50,000 Indians were killed, fired for suppressing the movement during Quit India movement period. 50,000 Indians were killed, and many were injured, and many were put in jails. No, large section of peoples were kept in. But new set of leadership emerged, Aruna Asaf Ali and others. Other leader, this Jay Prakash Narayan, other socialists, they have emerged during that period. There was a vacuum. Many the important leaders were arrested and put in jail during Quit India movement period, and many other uh, prominent socialist leaders they have taken dominance. And communists, because the Russia was with alien forces only at that time, and the communists were also supporting the Britishers. Some because the Russia wanted them to join in that. But ultimately, the Second World War, the um, Germany and this Axis forces were defeated. Japan was also defeated. Germany was defeated. Italy was defeated. Alien forces defeated this, and Japanese and Germans they have surrendered. Second World War, and the Italians also they have surrendered, and these alien forces won. But it has Then after the Second World War, there was international pressure. There was no other option, and the Britishers they could not manage during Second World War. They have became weak, financial weak. They are unable to get to
Yes, that is the
taxes.
main reason. I think the
Uh,
financial burden was so much
yeah. Financial, they
frequent in
could
the
not manage, maintain. They
British.
could not manage their armed forces. They could not manage their. At that time, by that time only, their civil services were very large contingent. They could
Yes.
not pay wages. But earlier, they whatever they want, they were doing. But after the Second World War, two superpowers emerged. One side USA, other side Russia. They have become superpowers after Second World War. Germany, Japan, they were defeated. Abhi- but fought together to defeat these fascist forces. But USA became stronger financially, economically, militarily, and Russia also became powerful financially, economically, and militarily. And Britain, there was no other option because it has become all these this imperial states, all these their occupation, they are become liability. They could not manage, maintain, and ultimately they have passed India's Independence Act, and they have nominated this Constituent Assembly, and for that even that the constitution drafting the committee was formed, and Mountbatten plan was given, and uh, because the but these Congress leaders were not willing to for this partition. And Muhammad Ali Jinnah and the strong nationalist, he has become a dual national theory, and he was in close association with these Britishers, and, and they have given independence without.
Lost to become
Yeah,
PM.
yeah,
That is the reason.
yeah. They could have announced the Muhammad Ali Jinnah as prime minister instead of making the Nehru. Then our country would not have been divided. We would have been together, this Pakistan, Bangladesh. But Bangladesh area, that was 1905 itself, the Bangladesh was partition. Bengal was partition based on the religion. That and they have made Dhaka as the capital of that East Bengal. East Bengal, and this West Bengal is with us. East Bengal is now Bangladesh. At that time, during British period only, based on the religion majority, they have divided at that time. Bengal was partitioned in 1905. For this reason only, they this Tilak and others, they have launched the Swadeshi movement and anti-partition movement. Surendranath Banerjee and others, they have
Partition किया
uh,
है पाकिस्तान यहाँ है, बांग्लादेश इधर है,
yeah, and
India के
not only that, this India's Independence Act, without declaring any, and they have given a chance to this princely states, whether if they want they can join Indian Union, otherwise they can declare independence. That's what they are told. Without, but Gandhi wanted them to live orderly fashion. They have not left in an orderly fashion. They have left to haphazardly, without to. There was a lot to chaos because of this partition, and there were a lot of atrocities were taking place in Punjab, Pakistan occupied Punjab, and Punjab, and other areas, and there was no other option to not to concede for partition. And yeah, that is a good suggestion. If had Muhammad Ali Jinnah been made Prime Minister of India, then I think there is a chance of you.
name
Um,
was proposed.
but not agreed some of the Nehru's
Actually, for that also there was some
quotary,
politics inside, internal politics.
internal politics.
Motilal Nehru played some game in the politics and proposed Jawaharlal Nehru as a prime minister.
Yeah, his son.
Yeah,
Yeah, those things were there because they were dominating the Congress
they were
politics.
the richest
Yeah,
family Patel's among name those
yeah,
times in that time.
Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel's name was also there, I think.
they have turned down his
Turned
name.
down.
They could
Because
not
of this
was.
Nehru.
But because of this Patel's effort only, all these 560 princely states, they have merged with Indian Union, and now we are united. Otherwise, we would have been like a African countries, smaller countries, 50 or 60 countries would have been made in this small piece of land. That has not happened because of this Patel and other thoughtful persons who have done. Sometimes they are requesting, sometimes by forceful means, sometimes by offering some concessions. They have offered some concessions also to titles and other concessions. Some when they used to pay huge money for this princely states, but afterwards when Congress government has been formed. The, those were cancelled. The concessions were cancelled to Princely.
He said that, but he's not favor of giving money to Pakistan. When
Yeah.
this bifurcation was done.
Huge sums of amount was given.
75 crores.
75 crores.
75 crores, 75 lakhs.
For what actually? For what it was given?
Bifurcate to develop
To develop that area.
nation. Pakistan is a nation.
And this is the brief history because in connection with this Azadi ka Amrit Mahotsav, we are and this and 75th year, and we are commemorating this Quit India Movement Day. And with this, not many participants are there. I thank everybody.